on everybody, unfortunately. There may be some questions after that, so we're going to start with the following panel opposed to this project: David Schwartz, Irene Presti, Jerry Antonacci, Leonard Scarola, and Jeffrey Croft. That's our first panel in opposition. And then we will then take a panel in favor. I know some people are going to have to leave. That's unfortunately, people have actually jobs to do and lives to lead. We will read into the record every name we have here. We will accept any written testimony into the record. And anyone who is here already and had to leave, I will mention they were here, what their position was, general position, and then get to them later on. If you want to talk to the Sergeant-at-Arms, I can't take questions from the audience, but if you can talk to the Sergeant-at-Arms, we'll try to get to it. Okay. Okay. All right, I want to remind you of our rule that when you speak, please state your name. And if it gets into cross-discussion, that's when it even gets more important that you state your name again. So I'm going to let you guys decide who goes first.
Put this on?
Yes. And try to talk very close to the microphone. The sound is not great.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is David Schwartz. I represent Willets Point United. And as Councilman Jackson referred to before, he mentioned three words: honesty, integrity, and transparency. And what you've heard here today, what we've just heard, is a complete fiction. This is actually, the question came up, you know, you're not looking to approve the whole project, just this parking lot. But what we heard was a project that was not even approved in 2008. So I'm going to do the laundry list, and everyone else is going to get into the nuts and bolts. And I'm going to do this as quickly as I can. But when you compare what you were told in 2008 to the present intent, it's not even close. It's not even close. In 2008, you were told that Willets Point was New York City's next great neighborhood. Now in 2012, we found out the next great neighborhood was a huge parking mall prioritized on parklands. In 2008, you were told that the project would encompass 62 acres of Willets Point property. In 2012, we learned the project expanded to 108.9 acres, nearly double in size, with the addition of the Willets West Mall on parkland. In 2008, you were told there was no mention of parkland beyond the bounds of Willets Point. In 2012, Sterling Related prioritized the development of an unnecessary 1.4 million square foot mall on 30 acres of Mac parkland, not connected to Willets Point. In 2008, you were told the entire 62-acre Willets Point site needed to be remediated all at once. By Robert Lieber, he stated, "You cannot say we'll do this acre by acre. We won't do that acre." That's what Robert Lieber said. In 2011, you found out that this would be a phased development, now suddenly possible and preferred. In 2008, you were told by the Willets Point Advisory Committee, chaired by a Queensborough president composed of Queens officials, that they will participate in, help guide the selection of a developer of this project. That's significant because it ceded all its authority to vet the developer. You ceded all your authority to that project. In 2008, you were told that there was this alleged contamination. I'll let Irene Presti get more into that. But in 2013, we learned, and they didn't mention this in their report, that the result of a lab report of a Willets Point automotive site that they tested, there was no major pollution found. 5,500 units, you were told. 1,925. I'm going to just go through it quickly, Councilman. 1,925 affordable with the linchpin of the Willets Point that you approved. Now we know that that's not happening.
Listen, Mr. Schwartz, we're going to get some. We'll have questions for you, I'm sure, so you could add the extra points.
Okay, great.
I just don't want to start right off the bat.
I'm sorry. I tried to do it in points.
No problem. Let's go through the panel.
Excuse me. I'm Irene Presti. Pardon me, I'm having a problem with my throat.
No problem.
I wasn't before all morning. It's just coming on now.
We have that effect on people.
I'm Irene Presti. I own property at Willets Point. You may recall 5 years ago, Claire Schulman lobbied aggressively for approval of the Willets Point development. Her local development corporation was co-financed by the city, and its membership consisted not of grassroots community groups, but of developers and businesses, the Mets, and here you'll see in this little poster, the Mets among them, that stood to profit tremendously if the development was approved. We now know, what we now know is that all of the lobbying by Shulman's LDC was illegal. The State Attorney General concluded a 3-year investigation and found that both EDC and Shulman's LDC flouted the law to obtain approval of their favored projects. That's right, they flouted the law. But it's the Willets Point property owners and business owners who are paying the price. The city aided their endeavor by allocating $450,000 in taxpayers' money to this illegal scheme and then paid their unprecedented fine of $59,000. Ms. Shulman personally obstructed the City Council's oversight authority by giving false testimony that lowballed the amount of the city funds she received and never disclosed ongoing city funding. This council was prevented from questioning why this was occurring during the ULURP process, and it didn't stop there. When questioned by the IRS as a 501c3 applicant, Ms. Shulman lied and said no to the questions: 1, will you be lobbying? And 2, will you be involved in economic development? Filing a false document is a crime. This LDC's entire existence was for the purpose of lobbying, and Ms. Shulman admitted such in a New York Times expose. They deliberately broke the law to achieve their goal of taking private property. Can this get any worse? Yes, it can. When the City Council approved the original Willets Point plan, then Deputy Mayor Lieber was asked if members of the LDC would be permitted from bidding on this. He did not answer. The city later approved Sterling Equity, a prime player in this illegal scheme. Who says crime doesn't pay? And why does this plan remain in effect when it should be annulled? A city council imbued with the notion of basic fairness and the rule of law would refuse to rubber stamp this proposal. Do you understand why we do not accept this plan and why you shouldn't either? Please vote no to Willets West.
Thanks, Ms. Presti, and I want to let you go on because I know how emotionally involved. And I got to say, the one thing Claire Shulman is going to be most upset about is our head is bigger than Mr. Metz. She's not going to like that at all.
Well,
yes, sir. Next.
Hello, my name is Gerald Antonacci of Crown Container, and I'm a member of Willets Point United. I'm sorry to say, but due to past experiences, I have little confidence in the council to do the right thing here and send this boondoggle of a project back to the drawing board to get it right. You see, in 2008, you fell over yourselves to approve this project, giving up your powers and getting no guarantees on what was to be done. Everyone else then followed the procedure, even though they were lied to their faces and were committing illegal acts as they went forward. When the city went from remediating the whole site to only one phase, did anyone care? When the city tried eminent domain, did anyone care? When the EDC and Claire Shulman were found guilty of illegal lobbying, which was essentially the city lobbying itself and putting the land and business owners at a disadvantage, did anyone stand up and say, I care? No. When the EDC had to reorganize because of the illegal lobbying for this project, did anyone stand up and say enough? When 3 other developers would build affordable housing at Willets Point now and guarantee it was built, did anyone object to Sterling's plan that has as many ways to get out of building housing as the amount of dollars the city has given them in taxpayer money? Did anyone care? When the city agreed with the unions to include living wage provision in the RFP, but then quietly omitted the living wage provision from the RFP, did anyone object? No. When after 5 years the tenants are still not relocated, does anyone care? When the city told you in 2008 that it recouped the cost of Willets Point property through the sale to the developer, then reneged on that and now intends to give the property worth over $200 million to Sterling for just $1, did anyone object? When Sterling said they needed to build a mall on parkland, which if it's not used for parking should be returned to the people as parkland, did anyone care? When the EDC said under no circumstances are we obligated to build a ramp so housing could be built, did anyone care? When housing was delayed until 2025 or maybe never, did anyone say, what is going on here? This is wrong. And this is not what we were told or promised. Did anyone care? When you saw a $35 million out that they could buy out of the housing, did anyone get upset? When Mr. Babu, the traffic expert, came and changed his figures on a daily basis depending on who he was meeting with, so it looked like the traffic would not be that bad, did anyone care? No. Did everyone mysteriously believe him? Yes. When the community surrounding the stadium and in Queens voted overwhelmingly that they did not want this mall on Parkland, did anyone listen to what the people want? No. So what makes me believe that you will care now? What makes me believe that you just won't follow what your party leaders say to approve this project? Leaders care what their constituents say and feel. Followers just follow what the party heads or the mayor wants. What are you, a leader or a follower? Your vote will let us all know. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I assume some of those were rhetorical questions.
My name is Leonard Scarola, member of Willets Point United. I feel compelled to comment on an important item that was discussed previously this morning. First, let me thank you in advance if I need an extra 20 seconds since their presentation took so long. On another application, you seemed completely frustrated and annoyed that a builder applied for a permit to build something, which I think was an apartment building. Then once they obtained their permit, since it was easy to gain approval for a building, they switched the purpose of the building, and you guys were completely frustrated and annoyed. This is the same bait and switch here. I hope you are equally resentful and annoyed with this project as well. Our property rights as American citizens now lay entirely in your hands. I'm going to read a statement by Brian Ketchum, who's a transportation and environmental engineer.
Make it quick. I mean, try to cut it short.
Okay. 4 years ago, the City Council approved an incredibly flawed project, the Willets Point Development Plan. That is, the approved FGIS actually admitted to producing extremely severe traffic and transit impacts that could not be mitigated. Today, you review a project that would produce far worse impacts. 4 years ago, Willets Point United asked me to review the FGEIS for the project. Then they asked me to review the access modification report for the Van Wyck ramps. What I found were two very different reports. The FGEIS reporting severe traffic, the AMR reporting minimal traffic. The AMR was prepared for New York State DOT and the Federal Highway Administration and was clearly designed to secure the approval of the ramps regardless of the truth. I presented this conclusion to the Federal Highway Administration. The result, the project was held up for 3 years. My analyses were included in a 286-page report that was submitted to New York State DOT, the Federal Highway Administration, and EDC. They ignored it entirely, making no corrections for the thousands of errors that lies disclosed to them. EDC and their consultants have carried on a half-decade of half-truths and lies about the project, and the behavior continues unabated. The City Council is presented with another set of lies, a project of about 13 million square feet that drastically underestimates the project impacts, that will produce a minimum more than 110,000 daily car and truck trips and 50,000 additional daily subway trips, which Julissa commented on. Yet EDC reports no impacts worse than what was reported originally in the 2008 FGEIS, in spite of loading another 1.4 million square feet of entertainment and retail mall development.
I'm going to have to cut you off in a minute. And
It's
if you
done.
give us a copy of that,
I have this
happy to
prepared
take it.
for you. I
Okay.
will submit it. Just 2 more sentences and I'm
Go ahead,
finished.
2
The
sentences.
City Council is faced with a choice. Approve a project that will not only cause huge traffic impacts, the surrounding expressways are already gridlocked, and reported to be among the 10 most congested in the United States, or kill the project that includes a retail mall that will likely fail financially, forcing New York City taxpayers to again bail out the real estate barons. Don't take my word for it. I suggest you make your own independent technical analysis for a third opinion. Get somebody else who's not biased.
Well, now you're adding
I've
extra
attached a
sentences.
copy of my most recent analysis of this project, and I will be happy to meet with council members to discuss any findings.
Thank you. Sorry, I don't mean to be flippant, but I just gotta try to keep it moving. We've got a lot of people to get to. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Jeffrey Croft. I'm president and founder of New York City Park Advocates. It is truly a sad day when we are talking about a plan that seizes 48 acres of public parkland in Flushing Meadows Corona Park to allow one of the country's largest developers to build the largest mall in New York City. Sounds inconceivable, right? Just when you thought this administration couldn't get any lower, here we are today. The 48 acres of public parkland was never part of the original plan in any way. in any way, and it certainly was never approved by the City Council. This is nothing but an end run around the law, and the City Council will be complicit when and if you rubber stamp its approval. If the 48 acres of public parkland they are attempting to seize for the project are no longer needed for parking, then it should revert back to its original use. This is what our elected officials should be pushing for, instead of allowing our public spaces to be given away to politically connected developers. The City Council has a legal obligation to protect public parkland, and that certainly includes not giving it away to private developers. There are a number of legal issues surrounding the attempted disposition of this public land. Last week, we were signatories on a letter, along with Willets Point United, which was sent to City Council lawyers Elizabeth Fine and Gary Altman, requesting a legal opinion from the Council on these very issues. The City Council has a legal obligation to do its due diligence on this important issue before any decisions are made. It's telling that less than 3 minutes of this hearing have so far been spent talking about public parkland. Let's be very clear. The 1961 statute that the city and the applicants are so desperately trying to rely on in order to justify being allowed to develop the public parkland for non-park purposes does not permit a shopping mall, much less a 1.4 million square foot mall. Administrative Code 18-118 explicitly states that any monies gained from a temporary lease on the property must go back to the property. Back into the property, not line the pockets of related or sterling equities. To quote the law directly, the revenue must aid in, quote, the financing of the construction and operation of stadium, grounds, parking areas, and facilities, and any additions, alterations, or improvements thereto, or equipment thereof. Clearly, this is not the case. The law simply does not authorize a Willets Point project. It does not enable use of a parking lot or authorize retail stores, and certainly something that is primarily a shopping mall. The proposed giveaway of public park is being done simply to sweeten the deal for related, so they have a guaranteed revenue stream up front in order to help them offset their investments in building the rest of Willets Point. This is disgraceful. This plan is about greed, pure and simple. It is a nightmare for the residents of Queens in so many ways, and for the city's taxpayers at large, who are greatly subsidizing this project. The corporate welfare must stop.
Thank you, Mr. Croft. These 2 boxes are yours, by the way, right?
They're not, but they're wonderful boxes. I think they're, are they yours, David? Or are they? Okay, I think they're...
Okay. All right. Just making sure. Just one quick question, Mr. Schwartz. Is there anything you didn't say before that you really feel you have to get on the record? Okay.
Oh. Community Board 3 voted against this project 30-1.
Duly noted. I lost your list, but we want to thank you very much, and we're going to keep moving. There's going to be some discussions. This isn't happening for a while yet. We do have a little bit of time here to discuss this, and we're listening. I know you guys, have been beaten down into cynicism, but this hearing is for us to hear exactly what the community concerns are, to hear what the concerns are of the businesses and everyone else, and try to come to an agreement that either makes sense, or to vote up or down on a project that would or would not make sense.
But
I'll let you answer that, even though I sort of wasn't answering it to you. But go ahead, Mr. Croft, quickly.
No, I mean, it's not just about listening. It's also about following the law and the letter of the law. That 1961 document clearly does not allow these purposes, and it was not the law allow any project to make permanent claim on the parkland or its facilities, because the revenue was supposed to fund the property. It clearly states in that. So when you guys ask that of the applicants, the City Council, again, that's one of the reasons that letter was sent to the Council. You guys legally have to make a determination before this. So it's not just, the community rising up who are opposed. It's not just the business owners. It's also a matter of law. And we very strongly implore you to make a legal decision on this.
Thank you.
Can I
Thank you
just
very
make
much.
one more quick comment? 2 seconds.
I am so
Just
cynical about this, but go ahead.
Read the contract, because I know they refer
Okay.
to the contract a lot. There's a $35 million out. There are several outs
Right.
here where the housing will never be built.
Thank you. No, okay.
Please
Thank you.
protect the parkland. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mark,
We'll discuss that.
I'm sorry, panel?
Oh, do you have a question? Hold on.
Yeah.
Who do you have? One second. Mr. Carmi does have his own question.
I'm sorry, you said that we have to make a legal determination about what specifically. You
Absolutely.
didn't say what
Well,
specifically.
we sent, there's a copy of the letter that we sent. Several council members asked New York City Park Advocates and Willets Point United to put that in writing. There is very legal reasons why the 61 document that the applicants are so desperately relying on, they're not allowed to build here. And the city's law department is saying one thing. The city council has a legal obligation to do their own due diligence. And when we read that, the law, the land was never alienated, which by law you have to. The city's law department, we certainly disagree with their assessment, their legal assessment on whether they can agree or not. As I mentioned, we've had several city council members saying, well, the city council should do its own legal investigation on it. And again, we sent a letter last week with Willets Point United to Ms. Fine and Gary Altman. Stating that. And you guys have a copy of the letter there, along with our statement. And again, the Urban Justice Center has also weighed in on this. So there are a number of legal issues involving the taking of mapped parkland. This is 48 acres. This is even much greater than the Yankee Stadium debacle. And, this is not the only project, that's being considered in Flushing Meadows Corona Park.
I understand. So you're asking us to you're asking our law department to make a legal interpretation of the 60.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
Before
And
any
do you
decision
have
is made.
a copy? Do we have a copy
Yes.
of all your testimonies from
Yes.
everyone on the panel?
Well,
we have that here.
The letter that we sent last week dated August 30th, and also as well as our testimony.
Okay.
And we definitely appreciate the work that you've done on this, but this is a very serious thing, and it saddens me greatly that we've spent less than 3 minutes while the applicants were here talking about the actual parkland.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, panel.